Okay, so with the Wanderer now available for play, we now have more information about the other Harbingers and also the Tsaritsa. Because of this, I wanted to make this video to get some speculations out there and some of my ideas of what may or may not happen with them. Mostly this is just me trying to, get my thoughts out there. That way, if I'm proven right later, I can, come back to this video and say, haha, I was right, I told you so! And then there's also just me wanting to chat with more people and connect with more people. And I think this is a cool way to do it. Speculation, there we go, and discussion of this game is quite interesting to me. Alright, so what I'll do in this video is I'll go through what I think about the lore that has been shown of them, and then I will make some guesses and speculations about their playability, like when we will be able to play them. And then I'll also guess at their element and weapon. Although I will say that that will totally be based on basically aesthetic, because we just wouldn't know. I mean, look at Sino. Yeah, he's Electro, and his look gives an Electro vibe, but based off the visual that we first got of him in the game trailer, he could have also have been Geo or Pyro. So you can't know. You don't know. So, in this particular video, I will focus on the big three. Pierro, Dottore, and Colombina. They are the ones who are said to have powers comparable to those of the gods. Okay, so, first one's first. Okay, so Pierro, first of the Fatui Harbingers. According to the Wanderer, he was a royal mage in Conria, and he lived with the Abyss twin, so the Traveler's sibling, for a time. So the fact that he was a royal mage adds to the evidence that I think there is for him being based off of Odin from Norse mythology. So I made a video a while back where I said that I thought that Pierro was based off of Odin, and this adds to it because Odin was a mage god. He specialized in magic and runes and whatnot, and that seems to be part of Pierro's backstory. So if you want to see the rest of the evidence I had, which honestly is kind of obvious and really baseline, go and watch the video. I'll link it in the description. But apart from that he was a mage and he lived with the Traveler's twin, we don't know too terribly much more about him. We do know that he was unable to gain the favor of the ruler of Conria because his knowledge wasn't great enough, which is interesting because he was a royal mage, but yet he still wasn't favored by the king, which means maybe he was good, but the king was just a dick. I don't know. We'll have to see. But he was a mage, wasn't able to gain favor, and because he wasn't able to gain favor, he wasn't able to talk the king out of whatever decision, let's call it that, the king made that caused the eventual cataclysm where Celestia rained down fire and blocks of death, basically, upon Conria. And so, as a result of this, Pierro, decided to become, the jester and help the Tsaritsa in overthrowing Celestia. So, probably there's a bit of guilt in there. The fact that the Pierro lived with the Traveler's sibling actually could explain how we're going to recruit him, so to speak. I know recruiting isn't the right word, but make him playable or make him friendly or make him on our side enough that we'll able to play his character in the game. Recruiting is weird, but it works for the premise here. So the idea that I'm thinking is that what we can do is tell him, hey, we're going to save our sibling. You still care about them to some extent, and he will obviously agree and help us do this. And the Wanderer said that Pierro tends to keep him in the Abyss. Like the Wanderer, as Scaramouche, was sent to the Abyss often by Pierro. Now the reason for this could be that Pierro wanted to have have Skara, Moosh, keep tabs on the Abyss Twin, or maybe try and find the Abyss Twin and try and bring them back. So there's a distinct possibility that Pierro still cares about the twin, the Abyss Twin. And again, like I said, we could use that to sway him over to our side and thus make him playable. Okay, so as for his element and weapon, honestly, it is purely based off aesthetic, but I think he's going to be cryo, and this is only because of the color of the light that moved the chess piece in the video, A Winter Night's Lazo. Again, I apologize if I'm saying that word wrong, but the light that wrapped around the chess piece was like bluish white or whitish blue, white basically. So that makes me think cryo. Obviously, that could just be his innate magic, and it has absolutely nothing to do with his element, and it could be something completely different. But as of right now, I think cryo, from just aesthetic. Also, the slight minor thing is that cryo tends to get associated with Odin, but that's, again, my theory that he's based off Odin. It's not proven, so I'm not exactly sure that's good enough evidence for me to say it's cryo. I mean, it's not any better than the light of the chess piece, but yeah. So I'm guessing cryo, just purely off aesthetic. And then, as for his weapon, well, he was a mage, so catalyst is an obvious one. I also, whenever I look at him, see a swordsman. I'll be honest with that. I see swordsman, so both of those are pretty thing. The catalyst is history, the sword is aesthetic, and then if I were to base it off my own theory that he's Odin, lances tend to be associated with Odin too, so I could also see him as a lancer. So not exactly the best narrowing it down there, but I narrow it down to either sword, lance, or catalyst. That's just my opinion of what I think he's going to end up using. Alright, so the next one is Dottore, and oh my god, this guy. Oh, he is such a hate sink. Like, I'm not going to go into what happened in the interlude quest with the Wanderer, because if you're watching this video and you've already done the quest, you already know, and if you haven't done the quest, then I don't want to give you spoilers. I should have said that there was a spoiler warning on this, because there will be a ton of spoilers, but that's beside the point. I'm not going to go into it. You can you've already experienced it or you will experience it on your own, but just suffice it to say, the crap he pulled in the past is just... he is a dick! And that's the nice way to put it. So, I have no idea how MiHoYo is going to write him a convincing redemption arc. I would love to read it, personally, and as a writer, I would love the challenge of doing it, but, I'm just throwing my name out here, but honestly, I don't think MiHoYo watches these videos anyway, and why would a Chinese company hire an American writer? But still, just throwing my name out there for the hell of it. What the hell not? But I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they're going to do for his redemption, because even he's worse than Skara, honestly. He was worse than Scaramouche in the jackass department. So I'm just gonna have to see we're just gonna have to see how if he becomes playable, what they're gonna do to make it so that the Traveler is going to willingly work with him, basically. In regards to his lore and whatnot, I am very curious, like in-game curious, to see how much power he has without his clones, because there's an interesting dichotomy. Either he rose to the power of the second of the Fatui because of raw strength, or he rose to it because he was basically a one-man army. In the sense that he was one person with multiple versions of himself, and they all just converged on something and attack. So I'm curious to see if he actually has his individual power is enough that he still is strong enough to be as powerful as the gods without all of his clones. I think it's possible. He's been around for a while. He's apparently the smartest man, literal human man, alive. So it's fully within the capability. I'm sure it's within his capabilities to be just that powerful. But I want to see it in game, if it's true or not. As for his element and weapon, so his aesthetic, his look, just his look alone, with the vials and the bluish hue, just makes me think he is Hydro. I will fully admit that right now. When I look at Dottore, I think liquid-based chemical components. I don't know how true this is, though. Like, I don't know we don't have any idea what his kit will be. But just looking at him and knowing his characteristics, I think he's going to be a very big all-round character. Like, he's going to have very few weaknesses. He'll have good defense, good survivability, good attack. I don't think he's going to be a support, but I think he'll be a self-sustaining character, I think is a good way to put it. So, as a result of this, he could also be Dendro or Animo, technically. I mean, both of those, they have a lot of utility to them. And while, yes, technically they need others to fully capitalize on their power, I think that he could be them just for the Swiss Army knife effect. Admittedly, this could also mean that he is Geo, but I'm going to put that aside. I think he's Hydro, Animo, Dendro. That's where I'm putting my guessing right now. For weapons, I can see him being a catalyst, being smart, being a castery type character. Also, he used, in the manga, the version of him used, like, needles that moved around on their own. So, that seems magic-y to me. Whether it actually is or not, I don't know. Could just be tech. He could also be a swordsman. I think he could also be a swordsman. It would be interesting. But, so, I'm sticking with, if I were to guess, a Hydro Catalyst, maybe a Hydro Swordsman. That's where I'm at with Dottore. Alright, number 3, Colombina. She is the Harbinger that interests me the most out of all 11. It's just, she seems so ephemeral and out of it and just whimsical. Which is weird because she doesn't seem like the normal whimsical that you would think, but she just seems so distant from everything. I'm very curious as to see what her powers are and what she is fully capable of. And in lore, we know that she is basically apathetic to everything. So, Tartaglia, said that she's unnerving and that there's something wrong with her. And then Wanderer said that she is in a state of obliviousness and apathy and just doesn't give a crap about what's going on around her most of the time. So that makes me wonder, is like, why is that? Is she just so supremely confident in her abilities that she just doesn't have to give a crap? Or is it just like or is it actually an aspect of her personality that is yet to be undescribed? It has nothing to do with power. She is just doesn't give a crap about anything. So it's very interesting to see what she is. And, you know, what she was doing in the video with the funeral of Signora was just lying on the coffin singing like there was nothing going on, just having her nice little lay down, while everyone was talking about intrigue and politics and the mission for the Tsaritsa. No, she was just sitting there singing. Fine. Nothing going on. So, you know, she is still one of the most mysterious. We know very, very little about her. We know even less about her than we do about Pierro, which is impressive as hell. So, I am very much looking forward to knowing more about her. As for some speculation about her, so the top 3 are supposed to have power comparable to the gods. I've already said that. So, we've got Pierro, who is I'm guessing, an immortal wizard, because he is from Conria, so he probably has the immortality curse. You have an immortal wizard, and then you have the world's smartest man who makes clones of himself so that he can live forever. That implies, possibly, that Colombina is also immortal somehow, because the other two are immortal, so why can't she be immortal? This makes me wonder, though. She has power comparable to the gods, okay, so why can't she actually be a god herself? Is it possible that she herself is a god? Because we've got wizard, human, might as well... Why not a god? Why the hell not? And if I were to guess a god, just based off of what limited things we know about her, and about the world of Tibet in general, my guess would be that she is the god of death. So, this is a little... Come with me along this train of thought here. It's kind of fun. We know that there is a god of time. And we also know that the primordial one created 4 shades of themselves when they were fighting the sovereign, the 7th sovereign. And one of those shades was the god of time. And there's a theory out there in regards to the artifacts that each artifact represents one of these gods. So the clock obviously represents the god of time. The flower represents the god of life. The cup represents the god of space. The crown represents the primordial one, so the god of consciousness or thought or creation, whichever one you want to go with. And then the feather, the plume, represents the god of death. And so this is where it gets weird. Colombina has the wing aesthetic to her headdress. So wings, feathers, plume of death. That's the first. Yeah, I know, it's grasping at straws like no other idea that she is the god of death. The second tidbit is, yet again, more grasping at straws, but we know that Pierro likes to give the other Harbingers slightly ironic nicknames, and Colombina meaning dove would be an ironic nickname for death, because a dove is all about peace and hope. Meanwhile, death, while technically is peaceful for the dead, is not something that anyone ever hopes for, really. So it's just, it would be one of those like twists. Like, okay, you're the god of death, so I'm going to give you a name of something pleasant and uplifting. Meanwhile, most people in the world find death to be depressing and horrible. Just, again, grasping at straws here. There's also the fact that, she's singing on the coffin and hugging it and whatnot, which is a little creepy, honestly. I mean, admittedly, yes, there is nothing left of the of La Senora, but assuming that there was, she would still be doing the thing. So the idea is that she is close to the dead. And then the final one, and this is really, really weird, and I will fully admit this is super, super weird and very much just me grasping at straws, is that if you know anything about the Commedia dell'arte, Pierro's character, which is Pedrolino, yeah. So Pierro is Pedrolino in the actual Commedia dell'arte. Pierro is a different pronunciation, basically, but Pedrolino is the actual character in the Commedia dell'arte that Pierro is based off of. Yeah, that's the description. And in the Commedia dell'arte, Pedrolino actually pines for the love of Colombina. So my thought here, again, grasping at straws, is that Pierro, being cursed with immortality, because he's from Conria, longs for death. And that would be a really interesting way to tie in that longing with Colombina, if Colombina was the god of death. Again, very weird, grasping at straws, but hey, you know what? When you're speculating, you grasp at anything to go with your theory. So that's just my speculation on her lore. Again, we know absolutely nothing about her. Alright, so as for her element and her weapon, based purely on aesthetic, I see her as an Animos spirit user. It's the feathers and the just ephemeralness of her, and also I like the idea of her just whizzing around the air for some reason, like holding onto her spear and just like flying through the air and stabbing and just like sailing down and stabbing people. That's the visual I get when I see her flying, or not flying, but fighting. So that's where I'm coming from with that, and who knows? I could be totally wrong, but that's what I think. So that is the big three. If you agree or disagree with my ideas, please comment down below. And if you like this discussion, please like and subscribe. So have a good rest of your day. Bye.